Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Tuesday, October 14th, and I have a reverb in my ear. Here we go. I see you, CJP Rumble. Guitar Lily is with us here. So great to be with all of you today. It is Tuesday, October 14th, and I have a reverb in my ear. Okay, here we go. So we're shumbling already. Rumble. Guitar Lily is with us here. You guys can hear the reverb? Yeah. All right. And I have a reverb in my ear. Okay, here we go. So we're shumbling already. I'm not watching my show myself. You guys can hear the reverb. And I have a reverb in my ear. Apparently it's coming from my computer speaker, but that has never happened before. How's that, guys? You're just watching yourself. All right, let's start this over again. I think we are good. Can everyone hear me? TJ, can I hear you? All right, so you guys can hear me. I can hear TJ. Hey, Dioc99, great to see you. Okay, we are all fixed up. Not sure why that happened. Great to see all of you. Rothen Walker, it is a beautiful day here in the Finger Lakes region in New York State. We have a lot to talk about today. I see that the live chat is already heating up. We have Guitar Lily, who is first on the live chat. Of course, we are live on Rumble, live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can ever imagine. We are live on the Died Suddenly platform, massive platform on Twitter, and so many other, platforms. It's great to be with all of you. We have Rothen Walker on the live chat. Sleeping Giant 111, great to see you. Opossum King has joined us. Rothen Walker with the first comment of the day. This peace in the Middle East thing is very strange. Like everyone just unanimously declared it to be so and make a really big deal about it. Trump flew to Israel, sat down. They had a signing ceremony officially declaring that peace has been achieved in the Middle East. Of course, Glenn Beck saying this is the first time this has ever happened in 4,000 years of human history, which is completely absurd. You know, I've been commenting on politics from an independent perspective for 12 years. I've been watching and paying attention to politics for the past 25 years. And I seem to remember every 5 or 6 years, some president, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, comes in and, of course, declares peace in the Middle East. Maybe not with as much fanfare as Donald Trump has done, but we have seen this time and time again. Jerusalem News with a headline blaring, President Peace, Donald Trump has achieved world peace. So I don't know. You can see the headlines for today's show. Trump is declaring peace in the Middle East, but there is a wartime economy that is emerging, and we're going to be talking with a brand new guest here on the Shannon Joy Show. His name is Jack Gamble. You can find him on the Twit, also on YouTube. He is a nuclear engineer turned market analyst and observer of politics. Absolutely brilliant commentator. He calls himself nobody special, but I think he's actually very special. And his analysis, I think, is spot on. He's been looking at the building of what he calls a wartime economy. Lots of moves happening in the markets. We had an unbelievable rally for gold and silver over the weekend. A short squeeze on silver silver that was supposed to tank it, but gold and silver are remaining incredibly strong. Many people are saying that this is just the beginning. So for those of you who have paid attention and have divested somewhat of your retirement into physical gold and silver, or into a gold and silver IRA, congratulations. I think this is going to be persistent for the foreseeable future. But while declaring peace, Trump is making moves for war, make no mistake. And as I mentioned, it seems like we've heard this refrain and declaration of peace so many times throughout history. The rhetoric sounds amazing, but the actions of this president from a geopolitical and an economic perspective do not add up. And at the bottom of the hour, we are going to invite Jack Gamble. He's an independent financial analyst who will join us today to talk about gold, silver, real estate, crypto rug pulls, the tech bubble, the AI bubble, and what appears to be the building of a wartime economy, which could culminate in 2026 or 2027. So peace in the Middle East, but war everywhere else. And that is what we're beginning to see. Again, you will not hear this on mainstream news media. You won't hear this from left or right-wing news media. They continue to be locked in that two-party political paradigm, giving you just the surface of what is happening in the news. Here on the Shannon Joy Show, we try to bring you the truth every day, independent, not left, not right, just the truth, straight up, no chaser. That goes for healthcare. That goes for geopolitics. It goes for, wartime economies, education, and all of the other things that we cover on a daily basis. There's so many lies out there, and it is very difficult to find the truth. It's why I'm really thankful that I was able to find Jack Gamble. He's great. You guys are going to absolutely love him. So that is coming up. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to spend an entire hour with Jack. I want to encourage you guys to follow him. His YouTube channel is at Nobody Special Finance. And you can follow him on the twit at JG_nuke. Speaking of Twitter, one of my very favorite, this is becoming a regular for me. It's becoming a regular part of my show prep, and that is non-hyphenated and the morning diner. It is a Twitter Spaces with some of the most brilliant analysts and watchers of the political discourse. It's on every morning from around 7 a.m. till usually about 11 a.m. And I was on that Twitter Spaces today. I want to encourage you guys to go back, take a listen to that. We went deep on in the Middle East and the declaration of peace. The question that was posed in that morning diner discussion on Spaces was, is there really peace in the Middle East? And it was a deep dive in theology, in the politicization of religions, not just Islam and Judaism, but Christianity as well. What is happening today regarding the expansion of a nationalistic type of Christianity, Christian nationalism, which is about conquest and expansion, and in my opinion, a bastardization of actual Christianity. We had a fascinating discussion on the morning diner, and it's on every day, Monday through Friday. One of the best sources for political discourse from an independent perspective. They have Democrats and Republicans, people from all different types of backgrounds, men, women, young, old, you name it. And it was unbelievable. So I want to thank our friends, obviously non-hyphenated, Bonk to Carnivore, and some of the other regulars that join the morning diner. I'm really, really thankful to be a part of that amazing group of people. And that's the difficulty today, is finding independent perspective that is firmly outside of the two-party political paradigm. Everything is so politicized, and so many platforms, left and right, are being paid to either, push out a certain narrative that remains within the two-party paradigm, or even omit discussion of certain topics. And so the amount of money that is being pushed out to propagandize we the people and divide us is frankly astounding. And so this is why we tend to, is when I stumble on someone like Jack Gamble, aka Nobody Special, I'm going to snap them right up. We have a great lineup this week as well of guests. We are going to welcome Dr. William Mackis into the Joy Virtual Studio on Thursday for a health update. Again, tragically, nothing is being done to address the plight of the COVID vaccine injured and those who have lost loved ones because of the COVID vaccines. And these turbo cancers are utterly horrifying. We are seeing cancers in young people, children, cancers we have never seen before, as young as 7, 8 years old. We are seeing turbo cancers pop up even among some of the unvaccinated that are killing people within 3 months. It's absolutely devastating. Dr. Mackis making his way down to the great state of Florida. As you know, last week, Ron DeSantis and Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo announced that they are going to be looking at ivermectin as a source, a cure source for some of these cancers. And Dr. William Mackis is heavily involved in this. He's been at the forefront of ivermectin, fenbendazole, and menbendazole to treat these aggressive cancers. And he's having unbelievable success. So we're going to be talking about the politics of COVID-19, the lack of action from Bobby Kennedy at HHS, from Jay Bhattacharya at NIH, and this president. They were supposed to be elected to deliver a reckoning on COVID era atrocities, particularly the rollout of the poison jabs. We've seen nothing of the sort. Not only are they continuing to recommend the COVID-19 shot to all groups, including pregnant women and children, but they now have in the hopper, as you guys know, over 500 new mRNA technologies with absolutely no end in sight. And we have new deals being struck as I speak to you today with none other than Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer. It is devastating. The medical freedom community is reeling. Most of them can't say anything. Why? Because they are terrified of the repercussions from Donald Trump and his MAGA machine. And they are also terrified of repercussions, tragically, from the Maha machine as well, which I believe is the hijacked version of the medical freedom community. So right now we're looking at an impotent movement that has been completely subjugated by the politics of this president who clings desperately to his bioweapon. And so this is why when he declares peace in the Middle East, when there is a horrifying democide continuing to happen in the United States of America, they're blaming everyone but the kitchen sink for the problems that we face in this country. But it is our own government that has poisoned millions of Americans and continues to poison millions of Americans with the bioweapons that they continue to push out. It is untenable, absolutely untenable. And this is why I'm so glad that we have Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She's going to join us again tomorrow. It is Wednesday, and this is when we do the live crossover show with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, who will be in the Joy Virtual Studio tomorrow, of course. And then directly after the Shannon Joy Show at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, it is On Call with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She has another great show for all of you tomorrow, live right here on the SJ Network. So we have so much to get to this week and in the weeks to follow. But, you know, the headlines are just crazy. They're crazy. I mean, this is a perfect encapsulation. Well, I'll do this in a minute. First, I want to thank our sponsors. You're going to hear from some of the SJ sponsors today on the show. But first and foremost, our friends over at Rocketdollar. I so enjoyed interviewing an amazing gentleman, Henry Yoshida. He is the CEO and founder of Rocketdollar. And this is an amazing, amazing company that gives people the power to control their retirement investing. They specialize in self-directed IRAs and solo 401k, so investors can go beyond traditional stocks and bonds, including real estate. Now, this is a piece that I have linked to a couple times in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show from one of our favorite informational websites, Technocracy. It is Patrick Wood's organization. And this was entitled The American Dream of Home Rentership. And it's a couple months old, but everyone needs to know what's going on. And this is from that piece. The housing market is transforming right in front of us. And the question is, will you be a winner or a victim of this shift? Will you be a home renter in the future, or will you be a homeowner? So here is the headline. Warren Buffett, just a couple months ago, bet nearly $1 billion on two of America's most controversial home builders, companies known for building what some call disposable houses. That's right. While everyone else is panicking about a housing crash, Berkshire Hathaway quietly accumulated $800 million worth of LAR stock and another $191 million in DR Horton shares during the first half of 2025. That's nearly $1 billion. But this is what will really blow your mind. These builders are not making most of their money buying and then selling homes. They are becoming America's biggest landlords through something called build to rent. And the numbers are absolutely staggering according to this piece in Technocracy. The smart money is not betting on a housing crash. They're betting on a permanent shift in how Americans live. And the prediction is this: within 5 years, if we don't do something now, as Americans, and take control of our retirement and become investors in our own communities, within 5 years, the majority of new single family construction in growth markets will be build to rent. You'll have nothing and be happy. It's outrageous, and it's happening right here in the US. The American dream of homeownership isn't dying. It's being institutionalized and rented back to us on a premium. Well, you can avoid that by taking control of your retirement and using some of those funds to get into real estate. That's right. Through Rocketdollar, you can invest in so many areas: real estate, private equity, crypto, startups, and other alternatives. You can invest in your own community. It's super easy. They take the complexity out of the process, and you can learn more about this. They have an 800 number. You can ask any of the questions. You can also, by the way, invest in gold and silver metals as well. Just go to rocketdollar.com/Shannon Joy. That is rocketdollar.com/Shannon Joy to learn more about how you can take control. Listen, what is going on in the stock market right now is absolutely insane. One pump and dump after another. And we're going to talk about that with Jack Gamble today. Barron Trump made an $80 million trade. Okay, so this kid is 19 years old. Because of the insider trading and the manipulation of the markets and the pump and dumps that have been executed by this president under the guise of tariff actions over the past 8 months, they're basically setting it up for the elite, including Barron Trump, to profit from the crushing of the United States economy. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And everyone who knows anything is moving into real markets: physical gold and silver backed IRAs, and also things like real estate. And so you can begin to protect your retirement by going to rocketdollar.com/Shannon Joy. That is rocketdollar.com/Shannon Joy. So let's get to, and this is, hey, Shannon. Yeah, I see you, Bill Benz. It is insane. It is insane. In fact, I linked you guys to a piece in the show notes of the Shannon Joy called The Art of Trump's Pump and Dump. This was put out by a great follow, Kobayashi Letter. You can follow them at Kobayashi Letter on the Twitter, but they basically go through the 10-step process that Trump has deployed multiple times in the first 8 months of his presidency that is making all of his cronies filthy rich as they are pushing you all into the stock market and Bitcoin, meme coins, crypto, you name it. They're all moving into real things. And that's why we saw over the weekend the stickiness of this bull market for gold and silver. People are predicting that gold is going to go to 11,000, 14,000, 5,000 by the end of 2025. Silver is unbelievable. I mean, silver has more than doubled since, I had a little extra money and I bought some silver, physical silver, in April of last year, and it is more than doubled. It's insane. And I think we're at the bottom of this. That is what I'm seeing from the analysts that I trust. Of course, Peter Schiff has been all over this, and we're going to be asking Jack Gamble about that in a moment. We're going to bring him in just a few minutes. But this idea that, that Trump has just declared war in, similar to the naming of, the Gulf of Mexico, it's now the Gulf of America, and just, via the stroke of a pen, he just says it and it's done. 4,000 years of human history and war, and Trump, he's the Prince of Peace. He is the peace president, as headlined by the Jerusalem Post. Everyone is, celebrating. Conservative media, they're just on cloud nine over this. We will, I guess, never have a war ever again. I think most people with their heads on straight know that is not the case. And in fact, Mark Levin completely, he let the cat out of the bag, right? This is not a peacetime president. We are not dealing with a peacetime president. And this declaration of peace in the Middle East is a mirage. We're going to be talking to Jack Campbell about that as well. But even in this statement, as Mark Levin, one of the lead Con Inc. yappers, right, hailing this president, for achieving something that no other president could ever achieve in 4,000 years of human history, he says it point blank, right, that this declaration of peace is actually a new call for war and more war abroad. If you want to pull up this video, TJ, anyone who believes that this president is leading us into a peacetime economy, I don't know what you're smoking, but it certainly is not reality based. This is what Mark Levin had to say, that basically let the cat out of the bag on this.
The time is right with the Trump peace plan to use this historic achievement to go to the next level, to protect us, to protect the West. That is, challenge the root cause of the problem, Islamist terrorism. And to be clear, I believe the only leader who can do this, who is bold, courageous, strategic, and have a real shot at making it work, is President Trump. Our State Department keeps a long list of terrorist organizations and the countries they are operating within. Beyond that, we know where the major actors are based. You can go online and see on the internet. Many very good groups, research groups, think tanks, they've laid it all out. It's right there. Of course, they're not only in the Middle East, these terrorist organizations, but many are. And it's a good place to start, particularly since we have this outstanding foundation, this platform, the Trump peace deal. The president is singularly qualified and capable of extending his diplomatic, economic, and yes, military reach into these countries where he has built special relationships to begin the difficult and complex process of unraveling, starving, isolating, and eliminating these terror operations. Some of these countries will welcome such an initiative, as their monarchies or their military dictatorships fear for their own survival, because these terrorists seek to overthrow several of them. I'm thinking of countries like Jordan and Egypt, among others. Some will resist because they're harboring terrorists or have been funding terrorists or somehow promoting terrorists and have relationships and understanding with terrorists, such as Qatar, such as Saudi Arabia. Yes, name them.
And that was Mark Levin declaring peace and then calling for war, using the declaration of peace after what went down in Gaza to call for really Bush policy 2.0, a new war on terror. And they'll go anywhere. I have another piece linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show that was on Strident Conservative. This was a great piece. Trump's everywhere, war and insurrection against the Constitution. They're not just going to go after terrorists in the Middle East. They're going to go after terrorists here domestically as well. And they're already doing that. We're seeing Trump's standing army. We saw what happened on the streets of Chicago as they are now going after Antifa. But it looks like a police state. And so this is an expansion. We're going to go tomorrow. We're going to go through this piece very, very systematically. Trump's everywhere, war and insurrection against the Constitution, and by John Whitehead. It's critical for understanding what is coming to the United States of America. But again, Mark Levin lays it out very clearly. The declaration of peace will lead to more war, and from his perspective, a war on terror. There's a larger war looming, and we're seeing now with the relationship between the United States and trading partners, China and Russia deteriorating rapidly, and also some of the moves that Trump is making here in the United States of America with the economy. Our next guest, Jack Gamble, says that we are actually positioning right now for a wartime economy, that these declarations of peace are nothing more than propaganda as they prepare to launch a war. And it's not going to be in the Middle East necessarily. It will likely be with China and Russia. That's the analysis that we have seen recently from Jack Gamble. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to welcome him into the Joy Virtual Studio to learn from him. He is one of my favorite new analysts, and you guys are going to absolutely love him, but we're going to have some big discussions today on the Shannon Joy Show. So keep it tuned right here. We're going to go to break. We'll be back in a moment with the Jack Gamble. Follow him on Twitter. His handle is at JG_Nuke, also on YouTube at Nobody Special Finance. We bring him in just a minute on the Shannon Joy Show.
Have you thought about backup power for your home or office? Here at Satellite Phone Store, we are well aware of a lot of different scenarios where you may lose power. That could be anything from weather to emergency situations. And we are offering a simple, effective, expandable solution for your home, which is the EcoFlow Smart Home Panel.
This panel can be installed in line with the circuitry of your home or office. You have the option of 10 circuits that you wish to power in an emergency. This means that if you want to be selective on what needs power in an emergency situation, you can power just the vitals or more. What this means is that if you want, you can just distribute power to your kitchen, for example, giving you power to keep the refrigerator and cooking going without interruption. If you're in an office, this can serve to keep computers, hard drives, and servers running without interruption. More or less, this lets you tailor a system that lets you conserve and distribute power where you see fit. It is able to power water heaters, well pumps, and dryers. If the power goes down, it will automatically start powering your home in 20 milliseconds, making a seamless transition to backup power. The home panel works with the Delta Pro series, which is expandable. If you want a basic backup system, you can use just one, or plug in two at the same time, which are also capable of being daisy-chained to 2 more units and a smart generator, effectively giving you 25 kilowatt hours of power. If you want something to sustain you for longer, you can purchase as many units as you please as standby, that way you can alternate plugging into the system. The home panel will charge the units from the grid when they are not being used. And if you want, you can add solar panels to the system to continue charging your battery bank even if there's not power coming from the grid. There's also an option for a dual fuel generator that runs off of propane and gas. You need an app in order to set up your home panel. What you will be setting up is the voltage. You can customize the circuits with a name, amperage, and what kind of appliances you are running off that circuit. You can turn on and off each circuit through the app. You can also monitor how much power is being consumed by each circuit. You can create automation so that if the power goes out, it will switch to backup. This also allows you to use the backup system during peak hours from the grid, allowing you to save money when the cost of power is higher. Another really big advantage to the Delta Pro series is that these are portable units. You can use them camping, you could take them to another home, or you can bring them back and forth from your office.
Thank you guys for watching this. If you have any questions, please contact the Satellite Phone Store. We will also be coming out with more videos, so make sure you like and subscribe.
Get ready to rethink how you build and deploy your retirement wealth.
Traditional investing is dead.
Aggregated total of monies in retirement funds in the U.S. are pushing $35 trillion right now.
The capital's there, and it's invested in just basic stocks, bonds, mutual funds. And I think that the investor of today just needs to expand what they can do with that money.
So with Rocketdollar, you can make private and alternative investments, single-family property, homes, limited partnership investments in private equity and venture funds. It could be even cryptocurrencies or digital assets and everything in between. Holding real estate next to your public stocks, and I always joke around that it's no longer the S&P 500, it's the S&P 7. And dollar for dollar, if you own these inside of IRAs,
You typically end up getting 20 to 40% better annual returns than owning the same investment outside of that IRA account, because you don't have to pay taxes on an ongoing basis. I have parents who have no retirement savings because they work in the restaurant industry. I love that I figured out a way to be impactful to Main Street, normal working individuals. You know, people that it would have changed the course of my parents' lives had they met someone like that.
Welcome back to the Shannon Joy Show. The headlines are screaming. Trump declares peace in the Middle East. But our next guest, who is a market analyst, is saying, oh, hold on, wait a tick. It appears that this administration is systematically building not a peacetime economy, but a wartime economy. I'm so thrilled to welcome Jack Gamble into the Joy virtual studio. Jack is the host of Nobody Special Finance on YouTube, Twitter, and Spotify. He produces a daily finance news podcast every morning, which I love, by the way. It is becoming a regular part of my daily show prep, as well as independent investigative reports and macroeconomic analysis. He is also absolutely hilarious, has an amazing sense of humor, and is able to distill very complex economic theories and economic analysis into very simple terms. It is a form of brilliance that is so necessary. In fact, I think people who are able to distill complex things down into simple terms so that people can understand them are among the most brilliant of the analysts out there. He calls himself Nobody Special because he has no formal finance background. He's just a skeptic. He has a questioning attitude and a keen eye for and attention to detail. This he developed after a 15-year career as a nuclear engineer. So it is the nuclear engineer turned economist that we bring to you today on the Shannon Joy Show. I hope he'll be with us in the future. Jack Gamble, welcome to the show. So glad that you could be with us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Shannon.
So this, just before we get started, first and foremost, my dad was a nuke. I don't know if you knew this, but he was a nuke in the naval program. He worked for the United States or for the Navy, and then got his nuclear engineering degree at RIT and worked at the power plant here in Rochester for like 30 years. So we have that. I have that in my background, and it is. I mean, you got to be pretty smart to be a nuclear engineer for sure.
Some of us sneak in there, you know. I think I made it by the screening process, but that's not surprising. About 50% of the people I worked with when I worked in commercial nuclear power were veterans of the U.S. Nuclear Navy. And my path was a little different. I was a commercial fisherman before I got into nuclear power. My career path has not been your typical flow. I kind of just bounce around, I guess.
Well, that's what I like about you. This is why when I find a great analyst that like gets it and tells the truth, is outside of the two-party political paradigm, right? Just like analyzing, it is so refreshing. And you have the added benefit of being really entertaining and having a very unique way of presenting these elements. The audience absolutely loved your explainer on the tech bubble and the NVIDIA deal using Al and Peg Bundy. That was particularly brilliant. And, before we get started, we're going to get into some we're going to talk about the economy, the market, pump and dumps, gold and silver, rug pulls, and what you say is the building of a wartime economy by this administration. I mean, these are big, heavy topics. But before we get to that, can you just tell us about how does one go from commercial fisherman to nuclear engineer to market analyst? I mean, you've gained a huge following because you tell the truth, but give us your Genesis story and then so people can get to know you, and then we'll get into the analysis for the day.
Well, after I finished my engineering degree, I went to work on a commercial fishing boat. A friend of mine was the captain from high school, and that was the most fun I hope I never have again. It was a great job, paid really well. Got lots of exercise, but it was hard to do with an engineering degree in your back pocket, especially, you get one too many crying voicemails from mom when you're out and there's rough weather and she doesn't know what's going on with you. So it was time to hang up that. And I got a job at the nuclear plant, which was right across the bay from my fishing fleet that I used to work at. And as it happened, I was very lucky to get that job in nuclear. I applied on monster.com, and that's how I landed it.
Wow.
The hiring manager was replacing a young girl who had pretty much had a mental breakdown in the middle of a refueling outage. Refueling outages for nuclear reactors are very intense periods, months long, 15-hour days, working night shift. And so when I come in there with my resume that says, hey, I can do 120-hour weeks on deck of a fishing boat, and they're replacing somebody who was struggling with 15-hour days, that was very convenient for me because they never asked about my GPA or my grades at the job interview. So that's how I got into nuclear power. I loved the work in nuclear. I worked at a plant in New Jersey called Oyster Creek. It was the oldest operating plant in the country until it shut down in 2018. In 2018, I went to work at the corporate office out here in Pennsylvania where I live now. And I liked working with the equipment and the plant a heck of a lot more than I liked working at the corporate office. 2020 hits, the quintessential midlife crisis. I turned 40 right around that time. And office politics, especially corporate office politics, being jammed down our throats, whether we wanted it or not, it was time. And as it happened in the lead up to my leaving nuclear power, especially in the fall of 2019, I noticed something. It was an event called Repo Madness. And a lot of people don't realize it. I think it's actually one of the most important days of our life. It was September 17th of 2019. There was a big blow up in what's called the repo market, which is just where, at the end of the day, banks make these big giant loans back and forth to each other to balance the books. And it's usually something that nobody ever pays attention to. But all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, interest rates spiked from like nothing percent up to 10% abruptly. And the Federal Reserve started injecting liquidity, as they say, which is Fed speak for printing money. And that struck me. I had always managed my own finances, and so I was relatively financial illiterate at this point. But I knew enough to know something was majorly wrong. Unemployment was at historic lows. Stocks were at all-time highs. It was the Trump first-term economy. Everything was great. Why the heck were they printing money? That just didn't sit right with me. Wasn't getting the answer in the financial media, because I've learned since then the financial media is nothing more than stock salesmen, servants of the financial services industry. And so I was driven to finance YouTube, where I slowly began to piece together what was happening. I realized that the days of this endless monetary debasement cycle are rapidly coming to an end. And I was just fascinated by what I was seeing. And of course, as I'm doing this research, I start to notice things are happening in China. Oh, people are being welded inside of apartment buildings. That's unusual. Hearing nothing about it in the mainstream press.
Right.
So I started betting against the stock market in the beginning of 2020, which was viewed as an insane thing to do in a market that only ever goes up. Did very well on that trade, obviously, when COVID hit. Then I saw what the Federal Reserve did after COVID. They decided they were going to print $6 or $7 trillion. I said, okay, not hard to figure out what's going to happen now. Inflation is coming. Got into precious metals with the money I made shorting the market. Did very well there too. And then I just, I have a big mouth. So I decided I would start a YouTube channel and I'd start talking about these things I was learning. And I wanted to be careful not to present myself as something I wasn't, I think there's too many people in this space who are out there selling themselves irresponsibly. And so Nobody Special was just a way to like stamp that right on my forehead. Guys, I'm not a financial guru or anything like that. I don't have any formal training, just self-taught, but I have a lot to say. So here it is. That brings us to
That's
today.
a great history. Yeah, no, listen, I think a lot of us woke up during the dark days of COVID-19, the lockdowns of 2020, and a lot of great analysts came out of that time. And so I'm really glad that we were able to find you. And you've been right about a lot, but there's a reason he has a massive following on YouTube and is growing his following on Twitter. It's because it is straight up no chaser truth analysis. And I think the most important aspect of your analysis is that you are outside of the two-party political paradigm, because as we know, when Biden is in office, the economy is doing great. It's never been better. They're lying about the numbers, and all the Democrats will, hail his economic, policies. And, the Republicans, it's doom and gloom. It's Biden inflation. Everything's terrible. We're going to hell in a handbag, right? Then you swap sides, you swap parties. Trump is in office, and, essentially they're doing the same thing. It's, accumulation of 70, 80 years of just a horrible monetary policy, the printing of money. They become more and more corrupt. And now it's just, I don't even know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of this. I don't even know what we're looking at. It's so absurd. Let's start with this. We started this with a discussion about your nuclear engineering degree working for power plants. By the way, I remember refueling outages. I remember when my dad, he'd work all night long, crazy shift work. It is, so highly, highly stressful. So I commend you for that. But, let's start with the AI tech bubble, NVIDIA, and, the 7 tech corporations driving all of the market growth that we've seen over the past 5 years, trying to capitalize on that with the erection and construction of enormous, like Manhattan-sized data centers, by the way, which all need a nuclear reactor attached to them, Jack, because there's no way our grid is going to be able to handle the amount of power, necessary. Can you begin? Let's begin with the dominant bubble in our market today. Your thoughts on, what is happening with that and where it is going to go. And also, I haven't heard you comment on the data centers, but I'd be curious as to what you think about them as well.
So in 2017, a couple of Google engineers released a white paper called Attention is All You Need. And all modern large language models are essentially built on that white paper. They came up with a mathematical formula for assigning the importance to certain words in a string of text. They called it a transformer. The title, Attention is All You Need, is based on the Beatles. Transformers based on the 80s cartoon. Engineers are dorks. Moving on. But what they basically did is they created the large language model. And in 2022, 5 years later, the U.S. economy entered a recession we're still in that nobody wants to admit ever happened. When Biden was in charge, we didn't want to admit it. Oh, no, 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth is suddenly not a recession. They changed the definition of it. And then the government running $2 trillion deficits, even though we supposedly have low unemployment. The economy was hurting. Everybody was hurting. The stock market was in free fall in 2022. It was down more than 20%. And then all of a sudden, November of 2022, Sam Altman releases ChatGPT because Silicon Valley needed a shiny new thing. The metaverse was a joke. The Internet of Things never materialized. All these shiny new things that big tech had tried to sell us was a problem. And inflation was running rampant. Everybody was hurting. We needed a new story. And I believe that Sam Altman took the Google white paper, and Silicon Valley and Wall Street got together and launched what I consider to be the single largest accounting fraud in history, the AI bubble. It is a neat technology that has potential, that isn't that good in its current form. It's actually a net negative in its current form right now. And they have launched the biggest accounting fraud in history using a very old gimmick called round tripping, which is nothing more than giving your money to customers so that your customers can use that money to buy your product and give it right back to you, and then you report it as revenue. And I first started to report on this in September of 2023. This little company nobody had ever heard of called CoreWeave that came up out of nowhere suddenly is buying billions of dollars of NVIDIA GPUs, which everybody in the world supposedly wants but can't get. And I just went down this rabbit hole of this company, CoreWeave, and what I found was really just shocking. I mean, these people are financial degenerates.
Really? So what are they making? What are they providing? I mean, this is again, 7 major corporations, NVIDIA at the helm. Bloomberg just did actually some pretty good reporting, after yours, on the circular nature of investing, and they're really just handing each other money. Now they're all in bed with the federal government. The government's handing them. So the government's printing money, handing it to them. They're handing it to each other and passing it all around, calling it gains on the stock market, and blowing this bubble up further and further and further. The majority of the American population is invested in the stock market for their 401k or their IRA, right? So this is on auto drive, right? Your financial advisor is just dumping your retirement into, these stocks because that's what everyone does. They're blowing it up. Everyone thinks everything is great. We're in the golden era economy. But what are they making, Jack? What are they providing? I like AI. It's a nice little, it's like an enhanced search engine. So there's, some benefit to it, but what is it? They're saying it's going to cure cancer. It's going to bring world peace. It's going to, usher us into the technocracy where we don't even have to think anymore. They'll elect our, leaders for us, and they'll make all the decisions about everything. They'll run our government. I mean, that's what they're telling us, but what is the reality? What have you seen of, in terms of actual production of things that people use and need and want to buy more of?
So it's slop and a story. That is what it has produced. Slop and a story. We were promised it's going to cure cancer. It's going to unlock a new era of human productivity. And Sam Altman's silly statement, if we don't build enough of these data centers, we might have to make a choice between free education for all the children of the world and curing cancer. Gag me with that story, all right? In the meantime, what have we actually gotten? Videos of SpongeBob getting tased by a state trooper when he tries to resist arrest. That's what we're getting. By the way, they're all getting sued for violating IP, intellectual property, stealing the likeness. It's just not that good. All right. There was an article in Harvard Business Review just a few weeks ago that said it was entitled Work Slop, that it's basically low effort AI generated crap masquerading as legitimate work in the workplace. And they surveyed, this was Harvard Business Review, and I can't remember the other name of the outfit off the top of my head, but they had surveyed over 1,100 corporate employees, various industries. 40% of people surveyed had reported receiving what they call work slop. And those people reported an average of 2 hours to clean up work slop every time they encountered it. And based on the self-reported salaries of these individuals, they estimated it was costing a company with 10,000 employees would be losing about $9 million a year in lost productivity to clean up the mess that is being made by artificial intelligence in the workplace. So The story we get is cure cancer, new productivity. What we have gotten is AI tools forced down the throats of employees who don't want them. The people who are using them are making a mess, and companies are actually losing money. And this coincided with a similar tool or a similar article that came out just a few weeks before this AI work slop article that said 95% of pilot programs for artificial intelligence at US companies are failing to generate any return on investment. 95 out of 100 don't save any money. What they didn't say is that most of them are actually losing money. So it's slop and a story. Now, that's just like the failure of the bubble, but the really sinister and twisted thing is the accounting that's gone on around this. And you alluded to this with the introduction on this topic. You talked about how everybody's financial advisor is putting them in this, and the Mag 7, as they're called, the Magnificent 7 stocks, which is all the big Silicon Valley stocks. Understand, whether you know it or not, virtually everybody in this country is invested in this bubble. Almost everybody. If you're in an index fund right now, the weighting of the S&P 500 to just these narrow sets of stocks is higher than it has ever been. It is the most crowded trade in history. Everybody has bought the same thing, which means there's nobody left to buy it, which is usually what precedes the fall. And the way they're doing it, there's several players, there's several stages in this bubble, in this AI ecosystem. You have the AI startups like OpenAI and Anthropic are the most famous two. Both of them lose money. OpenAI lost $5.3 billion last year on $3 billion of revenue. They're not profitable, and they are not even close. Anthropic, similar numbers. Not even $1 billion in revenue, lost more than $3 billion. These are money furnaces. The only reason they are alive is because outside investors keep giving them money to burn. And who are these outside investors? They're the people that are selling them equipment. And then that's the round tripping gimmick. Now, you've got other players like hyperscalers. That's your Google, your Amazon, your Microsoft. They call them hyperscalers because that's the new buzzword Silicon Valley created. They just build a lot of data centers. There's smaller players called neoclouds, which are kind of like your hyperscalers. They build data centers, but they're smaller players. CoreWeave is the most famous of the neoclouds. And then at the very tippy top, you've got NVIDIA, the only one making any money. Everybody else is losing money on this. All right, the big tech, Microsoft, Amazon, they have virtually exhausted their free cash flow in what I call the great game of CapEx chicken. They have all gotten together to make these massive investments. They know they're setting their own money on fire, but if they stop, their stocks will collapse because this bubble will be exposed for what it is. So they can't stop. In a game of chicken, right, you're steaming at each other, and whoever comes to their senses first loses. That's what's going on with the hyperscalers and big tech. Now, I first went down this rabbit hole in 2023 when NVIDIA reported a magnificent quarter. And again, NVIDIA is the only one making money here. And their most important business segment is the data center segment, and they beat by $2.3 billion. This was in August of 2023. And I was very shocked by that. It was a really good quarter. I'm like, wow, this is good. And I go and I look, and I come across this company, CoreWeave. Nobody's ever heard of. Who are they? And then I find out that right before this quarter was reported, CoreWeave had borrowed $2.3 billion. Hey, that's the same number that NVIDIA just beat by. They borrowed $2.3 billion from Wall Street to buy these chips, and the collateral for that debt was the chips that they bought with them. Now, collateral is something that you seize if you can't pay the debt back.
Right.
A chip, a GPU, this is a rapidly depreciating asset. You're talking about collateral that's losing value fast. That was grotesquely irresponsible to make that loan, whoever it was.
Yeah.
Unless the purpose of that loan was to inflate NVIDIA's sales, and then it made perfect sense. If you own a huge amount of NVIDIA stock and you inflate their sales, you make your money on the other side. And so I started to investigate this company, CoreWeave. And the more I looked, the first thing I did, I went to the LinkedIn page of the CEOs and the executives, and I find out they all used to work for a company called NatSource, which was the biggest player in cap and trade. They were a carbon credit company. They were the ones trying to push cap and trade on America during the Obama years. And I find a network of 30 shell companies in the Cayman Islands that these guys used to run carbon credits through. And I'm like, these aren't tech gurus. These are financial engineers. And, running a network of 30 shell companies in the Cayman Islands isn't illegal, but almost any reason you would do that is illegal. And I made a video to point out, like, hey, guys, something's fishy about these people. And the entire stock market is concentrating around this. Someone needs to start asking questions. And so I start saying, all right, well, where is CoreWeave's money coming from? CoreWeave was getting their money from NVIDIA. Okay, well, NVIDIA giving money so they can give it right back to them. That's obviously round tripping. And then I find out about the involvement of a hedge fund called Magnetar Capital. Most of CoreWeave's initial investment money came from Magnetar Capital. Now, Magnetar is interesting. There was this famous scene in The Big Short, which is like all the financiers on YouTube love The Big Short, right?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
In that movie, when Mark Carell's character is at a sushi restaurant with this Asian guy who's a CDO manager, and Steve Carell, his hair's all messed up. He can't believe what a dirtbag this guy is, talking about the CDOs. That actually happened. And that Asian character, his name was Wing Chao, was the name of the guy. He was a CDO manager, and he was assembling CDOs for Magnetar Capital. Now, the CDOs that Wing Chao put together had a 90% failure rate. They failed almost twice the rate of all the other CDOs in the market that failed. And it turns out that while Wing Chao was assembling these seemingly designed to fail CDOs, Magnetar Capital was betting against them. But Wing Chao was making these CDOs to sell to Magnetar Capital's clients. They were creating a deliberately sabotaged investment, not telling their clients, and then betting on their failure. And that became known as the Magnetar trade. They didn't go to jail for it. Wing Chao got prosecuted, but Magnetar got away with it. They made hundreds of millions of dollars. It made the global financial crisis worse. And these are the people who created CoreWeave, who is the company that has propped up NVIDIA's sales. So I make some videos on my channel about this. And I'm like, hey guys, these people are raving scumbags. They got millions of views. It's the most successful videos I ever put out. And I know the financial press saw it. And I know, because I could see the fund managers tagging each other in the comments on Twitter. Oh my God, look at this. And the reaction I get a few days later, Market Watch, Investors Place, Business Insider, Markets Insider, all of these financial news outlets run a debunking article that says, don't get your investment advice from Twitter randos, don't short NVIDIA. Doesn't mention me by name, doesn't mention Magnetar Capital, doesn't mention the shell companies in the Cayman Islands. And it just basically says, hey, there's this guy on YouTube saying this thing, ignore him. And every financial media outlet in the country picks that up and runs it. Basically, it stopped all my momentum right in my tracks. Wow. And here we are 2 years later, and it is exactly what I said was happening. Now it's like common knowledge. And everybody seems to forget that I had this story 2 years ago, but the financial press told us all to ignore it.
I mean, this is insane. And, to your point, we're seeing these types of manipulation. I mean, they're getting even more brazen by the day. We just had, I mentioned Kobayashi letter that just put out. It's like the 10-step process. They said we've spent the last 10 months analyzing every single tariff development, and a lot of these pump and dumps, right? And it's just the same. Trump comes out, makes a statement, gins up, either outrage or excitement. Then there's this flurry of investing, and they run it up. And then in this case, it's using the tariffs to manipulate the markets. But the amount of promotion, I mean, billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of marketing and promotion of this new, people are calling it, they're saying like breathlessly, like, this isn't just AI. This isn't just technology. This is infrastructure. This is the building. It's like building, highways and mega cities. And, and this is going to be, the entire world is going to be digital. We're going to be at war, we're going to be in an arms race with China. So we have to have more and more and more digital. And so it's becoming like this self-fulfilling prophecy, because there's nothing there. There's no there. There's nothing good or beneficial. No one wants a massive data center in their backyard, sucking up all the water and the energy and like humming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like all of it, it's like this flurry of activity over nothing that is driving the entire global market. And seems to be like propelling us towards war, which is one of your predictions. When the music stops, we're playing, this game of musical chairs, and they've been able to always find a chair. There's always some place for them to find, right? But when it stops, that's usually, if you look at history, when global governments will take their people to war. And that's when really bad things happen to people. Because this fraud is ubiquitous. I think in all of the sectors, particularly the tech and the AI. But you're watching this administration systematically take over corporations. You talk about a wartime economy and what that means to be a wartime economy. Like, not only are they completely defrauding the American people and setting us up for like the biggest bubble burst in the history of the world, where literally you'll have nothing, you'll lose everything, right? And they're all off buying gold and silver and real estate. They're all taking their profits, dumping them into the things that are real, focusing our energies on all of these kind of like false stories and these false corporations. But eventually, though, they are building an infrastructure for a wartime economy. And you've been one of the only analysts that I have seen that is going into that. So first, am I getting it kind of right with my boiled down analysis of what you've been looking at over the past 5 years? And then second, can you move us then into what do these data centers mean for the average American? And what does it mean for this administration and their partners in this fraudulent scheme, creating a wartime economy where the federal government is now buying stakes in and partnering up with major companies that could determine the future of this country and have a huge impact on bringing us to war with Russia and China?
So I was pretty heavy on the criticism of AI. Let me mention there are two possible use cases that actually do make sense. One of them is writing code. That's something that Anthropic specializes in. That is a viable use case. It's not a multi-trillion-dollar industry, but they are making headway there. And the other is defense and military. In particular, there's been a recent development where Meta, Facebook, bought a company called Scale AI. Now, Scale AI, run by one of the youngest billionaires in history, they're a data labeling company. They for example, look at aerial photographs, and they hire people, usually low-income sweatshop labor in third world countries. Look at this aerial photograph and circle all the tanks, circle all the people, circle all the cars. Things you would need to do to teach a machine how to blow things up without a human involved. And of course, Scale AI got in all kinds of trouble. They were under investigation from the Department of Labor for using sweatshop labor and for not paying their people. But that investigation got dropped suspiciously right before Meta bought Scale AI. So why is Facebook buying a company that teaches drones how to kill people? And then shortly thereafter, Meta made a deal with Anduril. Now, Anduril is a new startup, a defense company run by a guy named Palmer Luckey. Palmer Luckey, who's very sharp, by the way. Now, it's funny. He was the founder of Oculus, who Facebook bought. Facebook buys Oculus. Then they fired Palmer Luckey because he donated money to a Trump super PAC in his first campaign in 2016. And, cravenly liberal Facebook just couldn't stand a Trumper on their board. So they fire Palmer Luckey. Right. He goes and he starts Anduril. Anduril is designing a drone user interface for use with Oculus, which Facebook owns. Facebook goes and buys the data labeling company. Now they're forced to begrudgingly get Zuckerberg, cuts a deal with Palmer Luckey and Anduril, where Anduril is going to license the Oculus technology that Facebook owns with Anduril's drone interface and Scale AI's data labeling. You can see they're teaching drones how to kill people using AI. That is pretty. So that's a use case, and I'm sure the Chinese are doing the same thing. Which, by the way, why is NVIDIA still selling so many freaking chips to China if that is the case? Isn't Jensen Huang a U.S. citizen of Taiwanese defense? What the heck is that all about? And they lie, they play stupid like they're not selling chips to China. Shortly after it became illegal for NVIDIA to sell chips to China, all of a sudden billions of dollars of chips started getting sold to Singapore, which is a city, a country the size of a city. They're illegally selling chips to China through Singapore and Malaysia to the Chinese military, which will be used to kill American sailors and Marines in the Pacific and invade Jensen Huang's freaking home country, Taiwan. Some might call that treason. AI is playing a factor in this wartime economy, absolutely. Now,
it sounds like the business is war and killing people, surveilling citizens, controlling citizens, processing their data, using this technology to move it to a 21st century war footing, right? And that's terrifying. That's terrifying because that is, you're right. I mean, it's a complete betrayal of the American people and our Constitution and our way of life. And it's frightening. I don't even know what to say. I'm a little bit blown away by what you're explaining here.
I really hope it doesn't happen, but I'm 99% sure it's inevitable at this point. It's not really up to us. The Chinese are going to go. They've shown us it's been the singular focus of the Chinese economy and industrial engine for the last 20 years has been this invasion. And China has their own problems. They have their own real estate collapse that is ongoing in that country and a demographic collapse that's going on. And everything I've read says 2027, because after 2027, it gets harder for the Chinese to take Taiwan because of their economic and demographic collapse. This is happening. It sucks, but it's happening. And everything that we've seen this year with the government taking stakes in Intel and US Steel, in all of these rare earth companies, even the trade war and the tariffs, it is all leading up to this inevitable confrontation with China. We are hopelessly dependent on Chinese manufacturing for our rare earths, for our chips, which are made in Taiwan, which would be ground zero for this fight. We also get most of our medicine from China. So all of these things that President Trump has done, the tariffs to try to reshore manufacturing, as crazy as it is, and it is crazy. I mean, we were talking 140% tariffs, now 100% tariffs. It's insane. But it's more insane to do nothing here because this is happening. And when the Chinese roll on Taiwan, we're going to be cut off anyway. So we can do something about it now, or we can wait until they do it to us.
If you use the worldview, the worldview that I operate with is that they're working together, right? Like China and the people who are running things in China and the United States of America are not really opposed to each other. They're just, both countries are in, they have a big problem. There are demographic problems, there are money problems, the economies are collapsing. And so it's very convenient for the United States of America and China to get into a scuffle, have World War III, then we all move into the new 21st century global economy, right? They negotiate something. I mean, do you think that the winner of this conflict, this World War III in 2027 is already determined? I mean, because I'll go all the way back to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I'll go all the way back to the building of the Silk Road Initiative and the BRICS nations, and what so many of even the Western leaders, like the people like Kissinger, who are actually running things, right? They're saying, you know what? Britain, you had your time. United States of America, you had your time, right? You enjoyed a nice 100-year run, but moving into the new 21st century, we really want to adopt this totalitarian mass surveillance, total command and control. Basically, we own your bodies. It's 21st century human slavery. You don't, I mean, we'll harvest your organs. We decide if you live and die through our mass vaccination programs. We'll sterilize who we want to sterilize. Like it's just basically massive data centers. Like the whole business of the globe is to surveil and control the human population, erase all of our freedoms. And if that's the case, in my opinion, if that's like the bigger plan for these people who own our politicians like Trump and who own probably the politicians in China as well, then our battle as regular human beings should probably be to oppose both countries, right? To oppose the war in general and omit ourselves, pull ourselves out from these systems. I mean, I know I'm going big with you at this point because I know what's going to happen, right? China's going to do something terrible or something horrible is going to happen or the economy is going to collapse and we're going to blame it on China. And then all of a sudden, everyone has to make a choice. You either get the fascists and the technocrats in the United States of America, or you get the communists and the technocrats in China. And it's once again, we the people being dragged into these false choices. Like, how do the people, regular people, I mean, do you think I'm crazy when I say that? Or do you think there is actually going to be like a good guy scenario? Because I don't see the US being the good. I mean, I'm watching this stuff and we're run by absolute criminals. I mean, criminal. Barron Trump made $80 million on a trade that was created for him by his daddy in the insider trading world, right? With his manipulations. Like, these are terrible people. I don't see how they're any better than the Chinese. You go ahead.
So I've seen the Barron Trump story. There was a trader that made a quick $80 million on that crypto collapse that strangely coincided with the tariff announcement. I haven't seen any proof it was Barron, but the Trump family has a lot of interest in crypto, and it is certainly not crazy to imagine that that information was leaked to crypto friends in advance and people insider traded, much like, they're investigating strange bets on Polymarket centered around the Nobel Peace Prize announcement. Somebody took out a big bet on this Venezuelan lady that won the Nobel Peace Prize immediately before she was announced that she's winning it. So, look, it's the 2020s, and they insider trade the freaking Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think it's crazy to imagine that somebody in the Trump White House or Barron or whoever it was, or one of their friends, got wind of that and traded ahead of time. Not crazy at all. And, as far as the, are they all on the same side? I don't necessarily think they're all on the same side. I do think there is a East versus West power struggle that is going on in the world right now. I think the conflict is convenient for leaders on both sides, and so there may be overlapping interests, but I don't think they're on the same team. Not in the least bit. I think these guys hate each other as much as they hate us. With what's going on in China, you mentioned BRICS. If you want to become the world superpower, you can't not have the world reserve currency. And right now, the US dollar is still the world reserve currency for now.
Right.
As much as the dollar is weakening, it's the only game in town. And, you can see what's going on with the Indians buying oil from the Russians. They're paying in rupees. And now Russia is sitting on this massive pile of Indian rupees that they have no idea what to do with. If they sell them and buy their own currency, they'll collapse the rupee. They'll light their own money on fire. The Russians don't buy anything from the Indians, so there's no reason to send the rupees back to India. And nobody else in the world will accept rupees as a means of payment. So, strangely, we're watching the rupee just collapse in value. It's probably the Russians slowly trying to sell the rupees they've been getting for their oil and causing its value to fall. A reserve currency solves this problem. But I've used the analogy on my channel a lot. Coming up with your own currency and your own new reserve currency is a lot like a teenager saying, I'm going to move out on my own. I'm a grown man. I can do it myself. Sounds great. It's really freaking hard when you actually go try to do it. And so BRICS wants their own currency. They really do. They don't have one. They're no closer to one than they were a few years ago. I've seen this story of the BRICS gold-backed currency in one form or another. Every few months, there's another story breaks that they say, at this next meeting, they're going to roll it out. They never do because they can't agree on it. Nobody wants to hand that kind of power off to Beijing. The Indians don't want to. The Brazilians don't want to. They're not crazy about us having that power, but they want it for themselves, not for the Chinese. And so there is this challenge to the dollar that's going on right now. And historically, there has never been a change in the world reserve currency without a massive military conflict first. So I do think this threat to the dollar is one of those other forces that's just pushing us into World War III. We had a very interesting blow up in the White House earlier this year between President Trump, Vance, and Zelensky of Ukraine. Remember the "you have none of the cards" thing, when Zelensky started dressing down Trump and Vance threw it right back in their face. Coming out of that meeting, the message was clear to Europe: if you guys want to take on the Russians, you're going to be on your own. And that's because we know Europe is not going to come to our aid in the China conflict. And so Europe realized, well, crap, we better do something here. And they all went back and they got rid of their debt breaks, which was like kind of their debt ceiling. And all of the European economies basically admitted the only way we can pay for World War III is to spin up the money printer. And so you're having a debt crisis in France right now, a debt crisis in the UK. You're seeing the price of gold skyrocket. The price of silver is going along with it. These are all related issues, and all of these stories are all pointing towards this conflict, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, in this conflict, I'm just going to be frank, I don't know who I'd root for. Given what this government has done to the American people, the lockdowns of 2020, how they've lied to us, we still don't have any reckoning on millions of Americans who were poisoned by these reckless shots. It's going to be a very murky time. I know they're going to want to make it clear cut, right? Bad China, bad Russia. I certainly don't want to be ruled by China or Russia, but I'll tell you what, they've abused their own people. Our government they have abused their own people. in such a horrifying way that it's going to be a really strange time. I agree with you. I think that that's where they're trying to move us. I think I would probably be a little bit more cynical than you, if that's even possible, Jack Gamble, in saying that this is very convenient for all of the world leaders. We can have a nice, cozy little war, and they can all run off to the bank. They can install their data centers, their surveillance systems, and train all of their war weapons on their own citizens. Because let's remember, it is human flourishing and freedom, and our ability to pursue happiness, build families. That's what's most threatening to these megalomaniac, control freak, narcissistic, malignant sociopaths that I think that we have installed in our governments. I mean, that's really my thought. I don't know how I would make a determination as to who the good guys are and who the bad guys are at this point. It's just sobering,
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we're not the good guys, right? We're an imperfect country. No shortage of issues you could point to say America hasn't always been the good guy. Slavery, right? The treatment of the Native Americans, endless wars everywhere in the world paid for by essentially inflation, which we've exported, making poor people poorer and our own people poorer. That being said, if China were to become the sole global superpower, that would be a second dark age. The Chinese Communist
I don't know.
Party,
Would they be able to do it? Would they be able to do it? I mean, I also see a lot of reports on how clunky and like if China has their own revolution to deal with. I mean, this is how I think we solve this. We, the people of China and the United States of America, revolt against our own governments, give them all kinds of wrenches and problems in controlling all of us so that they don't have time to go to war with each other. Like that's what I would encourage people to do, right? I mean, there are plenty of problems. I mean, they're trying to lock their people down, but it's much harder than it is, I think, 9 billion or, with billions out there. I think they want us to believe, they want consent for just tearing apart our Constitution, ripping apart the fabric of our society. And they want our consent by convincing us that there are these devils over in China and Russia. And there are devils over in China and Russia, but are they any worse than our own devils? So that's what I would say to the people of the world. Identify your own devils in your own government and revolt against them peacefully, of course, through civil disobedience, peaceful noncompliance, right? Your words, building up parallel institutions. I mean, listen, can they really collapse our economy on our heads if a critical mass of Americans pull themselves out of the stock market, get into physical gold and maybe get into real estate? Build up their own supply lines and supply systems, support their local organic farmers, support their local communities, get things going in their own community. I mean, is it that easy for our federal government to just smash us down? I don't think so. I think if people just began to stop looking to our federal government for these type of solutions, then we could cause a lot of problems for them. We saw that with the rollout of the COVID shots. I mean, the reason that I think we're not locked down today is because 35% of the American people said, screw you, F you. I don't care about your propaganda. I'm not getting the shot. I'll lose my job. I don't care what happens. And that created a whole host of problems for them that they're still grappling with today. I mean, they think they're winning, but I don't know if I'm ready for this, another freaking false choice. I mean, we have to make false choices about presidents every 4 years, and they're on the same team. Do we really want to get into the global game of this? I don't know.
Well, whether we like it or not, we're in it. I mean, let me, you touched on a lot of things there. No, we're not the good guys. I mean, certainly the government is not the good guys,
right.
And more government is never the solution. That being said, I do think we're not even in the same ballpark when it comes to the shortcomings and the historical atrocities committed by our side. Compare that with 60 million people that were starved to death because Mao Zedong decided he wanted all of the farmers to make steel instead. 60 million people killed by their own governments in China through the Great Famine and then the Cultural Revolution, which is a joke. It was a purge of wrongthink where they slaughtered anybody who thought the wrong way, including most of their scientists and thinkers, by the way, which is why to this day, Most Chinese breakthroughs are reverse engineered Western technology because it's a culture that suppresses independent thought and questioning attitudes, much like we did during COVID. We did it too, right? Anybody who even mentioned, yo, guys, it's obvious this wasn't a guy who ate a bat. There's a freaking BSL-4 germ lab in Wuhan where they do experiments on novel coronaviruses they got from bats. No, a guy ate a bat at the wet market. That's where it came from.
Yeah, right.
And
Well, what do we
Western
know
social
now?
censorship.
Right. What do we know now, though? That, the whole Wuhan thing, that story is cracking. And we're looking at, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I mean, like calls are coming from inside the house. And I would say we're going to go to break in a minute. And when we come back, I want to give you the floor to talk about what people can do, right? Like what we can do. There really is so much out of our control, isn't it, Jack? Like the governments are going to do what the governments do. Our job is to survive. We, the little people. And you know what? Humanity has survived. There have been 4,000 years of human history, and the profligate spending and the corruption governments always ends in war. That doesn't mean that you can't live, that you can't thrive, that you can't pursue your happiness in your own corner of the world. And I want to talk with you about that, Jack, when we come back from the break. But the fact that our government rolled out and injected 2/3 of our nation, right? Hundreds of millions of people with the COVID shots in response to the PSYOP that was the lockdowns and the COVID pandemic, that are causing turbo cancers, sterilization, infertility, heart conditions. I mean, the death and destruction that was, perpetrated against our people in the form of that injection, and what they did is, I mean, it doesn't look the same as starving people to death, but it's violence nonetheless. The violence happening at the point of a needle is not different, in my opinion, than the violence happening from the point of a gun. They just found new and unique ways to kill us and turn their weapons on their own people and control our populations and the growth of our populations. So it's food for thought, right? Listen, I get where you're coming from. I see the choice. Oh, you want China to rule the world? I just see it. So let's get your response to that when we come back. And then let's figure out what, there are a lot of people watching right now who might want to stick their head in the oven after this discussion. Don't do that. Don't do that. There's nothing new under the sun. Other societies have grappled with these types of things and these types of atrocities. We can do it as well. So I want to go there with you, Jack, when we come back. Again, follow Jack Gamble, his YouTube. He does a half an hour or a little bit more of analysis, market analysis, economic analysis every single morning. He has become a regular source of information and analysis for me. He is daily show prep on the Shannon Joy Show. And you can follow him on Twitter. His handle is at JG_Nuke. That's JG_Nuke. You can follow him also on YouTube at Nobody Special Finance. He has a massive following and just really, really important perspectives. When we come back, we can look at the live chat a little bit, and then I want to get your thoughts on my final statement, and then let's talk about what people can do, right? Let's empower some people in that final segment. So we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back with Jack Gamble in a moment right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Are we going to break? We should be going to break.
And cut.
We'll go to break. I know, right? And cut. Where'd TJ go? So we do have a producer here in the Shannon Joy Show, and Bill Benz. Shumble numbers again, Shannon. Yes, I am really not sure. Yeah, Diog99 says we can see you. All right, well, let's ask some questions here. Well, you know what, Jack? I'm gonna look on my signal here, but why don't I get your response to my final thought, and then we'll go to a break in a minute.
It's still too late to turn it off. We don't have to go down this road. The Chinese get a say, unfortunately, and I hope they change their mind. I don't think they will. How do you protect yourself? That's a hard one. I can tell you what I'm doing to protect myself. Precious metals, I think, when the only way they can pay for what it looks like they're trying to do is by spinning up the money printers again. The only way they can pay for the fraud that has already been perpetuated, this damage is already done between the AI bubble and what's happening with private equity and private credit, which we didn't even touch on. The only way they can pay for that is by spinning up the money printer. And they're already doing the politically expedient thing. They're moving all of those toxic assets from Wall Street's books into 401ks and IRAs, which, because it's much more plausible, it's much easier to get that through Congress to bail out grandma's IRA and grandma's pension than it is to bail out Blackstone or Kochu. So if the money printer is inevitably spinning back up, then gold is the obvious answer. And I think people are increasingly seeing that. We're looking at $4,000, $4,100 gold right now. I think every day more and more people are starting to realize that. I don't think it's a top. It's not going to be a straight line up. There's going to be pullbacks and corrections. But I think a sizable percentage of your traditional 60-40 stock bond portfolio is going to start to look more like 60-20-20 with gold making up the 20. And I would not even venture a guess as to how high the price of gold and by extension silver will go in that scenario. So I think that's the best way to protect yourself right now is through precious metals. I would add, be very careful. There are a lot of scammers in the precious metal space. There are a lot of counterfeit physical gold and silver products that are out there. So do your homework and do your research before you go out and panic buy anything.
Counterfeit physical gold and silver. So they are shipping counterfeit metal.
Correct.
Wow. Where are you seeing that?
Gold bars with tungsten rods inside them. The weight is almost identical. And, it takes an expensive machine to detect that. So if you are going to buy physical precious metals, buy from either a reputable online dealer or a local coin shop that you trust. It's reasonable there's a machine called a Sigma verifier where it could detect if there's tungsten rods in your metal or if it's something like that. Ask the shop owner to put it on a verifier for you, understand how the verifier reads and what to look for when you're looking at it. There's fake silver that is out there. There are a lot of gold and silver IRA scams that, they say, don't worry, we're going to put you in safeguarded physical metal in a vault somewhere. And then the way they screw you is they get you into these odd collectible, weird denomination products that have a very high premium, but pay them a very high commission if they convince you to buy it, to the point where the metal would have to rise 30 or 40% just for you to break even on your investment. So there's a lot of different ways they could rip you off.
Okay, so they're putting your metal in the vault, but they are overcharging you for the actual metal. And so they're putting you into what kinds of metals, like what kinds of denominations, so people can look out for it. And so if you're doing a gold or silver IRA, you want to go with very commonly used metals that are very close or similar to the spot prices, right? So when you're doing your allocations, that would be the best way. So you can always look up the spot price for gold or silver. And then typically with an IRA, they're going to charge you what are the common denominations?
Like 1 ounce gold coins, 1 ounce silver rounds, or 10 ounce, right? One of the common things they'll do is they'll confuse you they'll say, we're going to put you in a 1.5 ounce collectible coin. And it's a weird 1.5 ounce. So most people don't do the math in their head. What should it cost based on the spot price? They'll talk really fast to confuse you. And so you forget about your questions before they even finish answering. They'll also try to put you into collectible or numismatic, some people will say. Numismatic and collector's value does not survive a recession. It's the first thing to go. So if you're paying for a collector's item, you're not getting the base metal, you're getting the collectible value of the item. And those collectibles tend to come with a higher premium, which is really just the commission you're paying to them. So.
Got it. No, that's very, very important. Jack Gamble, He is nobody special. His handle on YouTube is at nobody special finance and at JG_Nuke. I agree with you. I like metals. I like real estate. I like cash. I'm an all of the above kind of gal. I put everything, in a little bit of places. Right now I'm recommending Peter Schiff. He's been selling gold for quite some time, and he has some of the best prices. He can sell you direct. Like if you want to do a, physical gold and silver purchase, shiftgold.com is who I trust right now. Not working with Colonial Metals anymore, guys. So I'll tell you about that tomorrow. But I also, Rocketdollar, if you want to do real estate, they are great partners of the Shannon Joy Show, and you can do a gold silver IRA through them as well. But we'll do an explainer. I think that this is actually something that people, as more and more Americans move into real estate, they're trying to diversify and hedge with their retirement. Like people are uncomfortable. They have $600,000, $500,000, their life's retirement sitting in a 401k. And they're like, they don't want to, put $300K in a safe in their house. Maybe they do. I don't know. But so they want to roll it over. They want to move into like a gold back IRA or into real estate, which is what you can do through Rocketdollar. And it's just complicated, right? Like, and so I think that would be actually a great show, like how to not get scammed on these things and create, very discerning and savvy consumers of gold and silver, and also really responsible ways and ethical ways to move out of your current 401k into something else. I think that would be actually a pretty good show, Jack. Would you want to do that at some point with us?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And, one other quick thing I would mention is make sure the company's been around for a while. You see these companies pop up and they go out of business and pop up. And, there was a big case not too far from where I live, actually, out here in Pennsylvania. The First State Depository, I think it was called. It was a gold and metal custodian. And, we'll guard your metal for you in your IRA. The guy was embezzling it. He was taking people's gold and he was putting it in the walls of his house. He was selling it for cash. He was living a lavish lifestyle. And unfortunately, a lot of people lost a lot of money in that scam. And it's been years. They're still fighting over what they managed to claw back from this guy and figure out who's going to get what. So, reputation matters. And beware. Some people
Absolutely.
They'll prey on similar political beliefs. They'll prey on patriotism. They'll prey on religious beliefs in order to lull you into a sense of security. And, this guy thinks just like me. I can trust him. Just be careful. Don't let, he's an American patriot, a Christian, mean I don't have to check and make sure this guy doesn't have an arrest history and that his company has been around for more than, say, 2 or 3 years. Do your homework.
Absolutely. Jack, I appreciate you. We're just going to go to a quick break, and then I'm going to let Jack go. I will close out after because I don't want to keep you longer than the hour that we allotted for. I respect your time. Really appreciate your perspective. And I think we just touched the surface in this interview. I would like to discuss more of these very important issues with you in the future. So I hope you'll come back and keep up the great work. How can people support you? Can you direct people to whether it's your website or your YouTube? Like, how can people access all of your information and also help you continue to bring this great information to them on a regular basis?
Yeah, the best way is just tune into the show every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube or Twitter or Spotify. Again, it's Nobody Special Finance on YouTube, JG Nuke on Twitter. And that's the best way. Thank you.
All right. You're
Appreciate
awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, looking forward to some more great videos from you as well. We'll always feature them here on the show. All right, guys. Thank you for being with us. Great interview with Jack. Want to get some of your responses. Let's go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to look at the live chat, say hi to all of you, and we will close it out. PG Glenny, thank you, Jack. Yeah, he was great. And yeah, we'll get back to that in just a minute right here on the Shannon Joy Show.
This is Jennifer with darkbags.com. I wanted to show you one of our newest products from Escape Zone. This is our satellite Faraday sleeve. So it actually will fit your satellite phone, which we've noticed that there wasn't any product on the market that perfectly fit them, so we decided to make them ourselves. And it has this Velcro closure right here to close it up, and that makes this dust and water resistant. So what's nice about this Faraday pouch is that it'll protect against any EMPs. So your device is, your emergency device actually will always be protected in here as long as it stays in here. You can take it out for,
Okay, so we tried to go to break, but no one was there.
Store it in here. Again, this is available on darkbags.com.
Shannon Joy here for PCM and Associates. If we've learned anything over the past 4 years, it's to expect the unexpected. Well, proper asset allocation can minimize the impact of the unexpected. From inflation to tax rates to energy efficiencies, we can never really know what we're going to get. Allocating funds among various categories like growth, income, international, tangible assets, and cash can help investors prepare for anything. PCM and Associates practices asset allocation for a rate of return. Call Don Polano today at 1-800-536-1368. That's 1-800-536-1368 for financial independence with a wealth manager who shares your values. Call Dom today. Well, there we go. We are back. Thank you to this amazing audience. You guys are great. Appreciate you. And yeah, we're just gonna close out the show. Yeah. Mod trend. Shannon, there's no show on Mondays. No, I have a show every Monday. Yesterday was Columbus Day. Just for all of you to know, basically, this is my philosophy. I still have kids. I have a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 13-year-old at home. And for so many years, I would like work through vacations when they were home. I would, be heading off to the office doing shows. And I decided a couple of years ago that when the kids are off on holiday, mama is going to be off with them. So if I'm able to get a guest host, we will arrange for a guest host, but sometimes we don't. And so, yeah, yesterday was Columbus Day. I was home with the kiddos. But yes, of course, we have a live show every day on Mondays. I want to thank all of you on the live chat. Guitar Lily, you're great. CM1968, appreciate you. Shay, you are better exposing the fakes and frauds in government than Dace and Beck combined. Well, thank you, CM1968. I so appreciate that. Mark the Regan is with us as well. Glad that you are here. And yeah, really interesting show with Jack Gamble. And I agree with him 100%. I do believe that the real stuff, again, we don't know what's going to happen with these markets. Can't give financial advice, but I've always gone with the real stuff: metals, gold and silver, real estate, human relationships. As you guys know, Catherine Austin Fitts says that the most valuable commodity on the face of the planet is relationships of trust. Your relationship with your family and your community, what's going on within your communities, building up support systems, parallel systems, supply lines in your local communities, as well as making sure you have gold and silver on hand, some cash, and also some real estate. Again, food, seeds, guns, bullets, you name it, those things. That I think is going to be where people need to get into as we get into some very bumpy times. So we're going to continue to cover this story as well and more here on the Shannon Joy Show. But in the meantime, you guys have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.